year is 2021, and Libsyn launches the latest podcast on the Borgcast Galactica feed. In a freak mishap, Borgcast Galactica and its hosts, Peter and Anne-Marie, are blown out of their trajectory to re-emerge as Borg Rogers in the 25th century.
Fools. And welcome to Borg Rogers 2.8 Utter Fucking Gobshite, which is genuinely offensive as well as badly written shit.
There we are. Hello, friend. It's Peter and Anne-Marie here. And yes, we have just watched
Shgoratchx.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh dear. And let's see now, who's responsible for this
Gobshite.
tripe? It was written
In inverted commas.
by William Keyes.
Right.
His only bookisode, thankfully. His main writing credits are for The Littlest Hobo.
There's a voice that keeps on calling me down the road. That's where I'll always be. Every stop I make a new friend.
I'd rather watch an episode of The Littlest Hobo than this.
And it's directed by Vincent McCavity. Well, I don't think he's to blame, really, particularly. It's not the direction that's at fault here.
No.
It is very much the writing. Yes.
Yes, if you can call it writing. Right. It's clearly written by a 15-year-old incel, I tell you. Fucking hell.
Translation. If the language resembled any reasonable tongue known in this galaxy, I would oblige. Unfortunately, it doesn't.
Crichton, establish some kind of communication.
It is unnecessary to establish communication. They are already established. We only speak Sidonian when irritated.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Well, my name is Captain Buck Rogers. This is Hawk. We're from the Earthship Searcher.
And we're from Sidonia. I am General Exus.
I am General Solomon.
I am General Umac.
I'm General Soso. I'm Junior Cousin. I am General Tocha.
And who are you?
I am Private Zed.
So, there's a derelict ship drifting into the freight lanes. So Hawk, who was going to go and do asteroid searches again, because
Yes,
they're
'cause that's a regular
vitally
thing.
important, has to join Buck now instead, even though he does fuck all.
Yeah.
Buck is the one who has to go and investigate this ship, even though he's hardly got any sleep, because reasons. Crichton goes to wake Buck, having droned fucking on for ages about how bad sleep is and how inefficient it is, and then makes some shit jokes. It's from your century, renowned for its wars, women's lib, and Holocaust. Yeah.
Yes, one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so Crichton can just fuck off. I mean, he already could just fuck off because he's a fucking corkscrew with scissor hands.
I think I'd say William Keyes can just F off.
Oh, yeah, fuck off. Put his keys in his knob and turn it till he screams. Talking of knobs, that's the next thing.
Yes.
A very, very terrible knob joke.
Yes.
Crichton, one of these days you're going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time to the right person. They're going to turn your knob. You know what I mean?
Knob? Knob? I have no knobs.
Well, you get into the ship right now, or I'll show you have knobs in the most unexpected places.
Again, it's like, did they mean it to be as smutty as this, or is just not have that inference in the United States in parlance of the 1980s? Hard to say, really, isn't it?
Don't know. Not sure I care. It's bollocks. Oh, look, this ship is terrible. There are no markings, end teaser.
It's the Gnome-mobile. That's literally what they called that model, which is the bootlegger shuttle from Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This episode, being gobshite, has a lot in common with Galactica 1980 and all the fucking scouts and everything, but that was still better than
down
this.
there with this, isn't it? Yeah.
So then they're in a rusty ship full of dry ice. Crichton's being annoying again. He gets told to look for life forms, says he's found some inferior ones. At which point they appear and go...
Yeah, they talk nonsense for no good reason.
Apparently they do it when they're angry.
Yeah, but I would just... And why call the episode that? Oh, just weird.
Oh, I don't know. And they only speak Zerdonian when they're irritated.
So they don't... I think there's one other instance in the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
That's it. Not one of them, by the way, were in Time Bandits.
Oh.
Much to our surprise, I think.
Well, they weren't good enough, were they? Because Time Bandits was good.
Possibly, yes, they didn't make the grade.
Yeah.
But the most notable of all the small actors, is that the PC word? I'm never quite sure.
Small. I don't know. I don't know. Actually, I genuinely don't know.
Anyway, is General Zoman, who's played by John Edward Allen, who was in Blade Runner.
Okay.
As the Kaiser toy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the teddy bear and the Kaiser toy. That's him. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And one of them was in the original series' Journey to Babel, playing the part of small copper-skinned ambassador. Wow.
Right. Well, yeah.
And one of them was one of the Munchkins in Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
No, the most interesting, though, is the one who isn't
I was just
general.
coming on to him.
Aha.
Yeah, because they're all generals apart from the black one.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, I think. Can't help it.
It's not unfortunate. He's probably incel fucking right-wing Tory voting shitty twat face who, if he isn't already dead, I'm finding out where he lives and I'm coming over and I'm sticking this DVD up his fucking willy slit.
Oh, nice. Private Zed, who's played by Tony Cox, who was an Ewok in Return of the Jedi in both the Ewok movies. He was a dink in Spaceballs, those are the Jawa rip-offs. He was in Willow. Street Vandal in Blade Runner. He's one of the ones that climb on the top of Deckard's police car. He was in both Bad Santa movies. Bill and Ted 2, Frasier, to name but a few. He's got the longest CV of all the actors. And I think arguably he's probably the best actor amongst them. But
I think he gets the most individual lines, doesn't he?
yeah, and I think they do that because he's a better actor.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, these generals, in inverted commas, are carrying solar bombs. They're all safe and sort of sound, except they're not. They're fucking leaky. The bombs are deteriorating because their stabilizer destabilized. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
No. So they all come aboard the ship and they meet Wilma and say, "Not like any woman I ever saw. No, you've got bumps." It's like, oh, fuck off. Then some idiot allows them to push buttons and shit.
Yeah, there's no security on the ship whatsoever. They're just allowed to roam around.
It's just ridiculous. So, as a result of them pressing buttons, the ship flies on the wonk and Crichton gets damaged. Hooray! But then they try and fix him. Bollocks. So they get out Crichton's brain and it looks like a cross between a telephone and a shower. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Then they go off again to fiddle with something else, but they're grounded, which means what, they don't get electricity or something. Is this before or after they assault Wilma when they're locked away? I can't remember.
This is before.
Right. Okay. Anyway, they're grounded, and so they can fiddle around with things and just laugh. Ha ha. And they want to bring this all back to their home, but then they break it. And because of them breaking it, now the ship carrying the bombs is going to go into the aft section of the Searcher. So I think that's the point at which Wilma tries to lock them all in the lounge, except that doesn't work because they can unlock think or whatever think the buggery bollocks this is by chanting, and then they can get the door to open. And then they have to examine Wilma. Oh, God. And it's just awful. It really is. And she's just like, "No, you're not." And they're just like, "Ha ha ha, but it's for science. He's a doctor." And it's just like, fuck off. Why doesn't she kick them in the face?
Because that would look bad. I can't help feeling.
Fucking hell. And also, she keeps being left with them. You can't help feeling because she's the woman. Like in 1980, it was the woman always got left with a fucking
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, sure, Buck hasn't had sleep for 50 hours, so it shouldn't be him. There are plenty of other people in this crew.
What about that fucking lieutenant who's related to Twatty Face Old Man who gets lines for no reason? Give him the fucking arse wipes, because their height has nothing to do with it. They get treated like children a lot and laugh, but they're just arseholes. So he can look after all the fucking arseholes and let Wilma do her fucking job. She's a fucking colonel. She even says this at one point. Doesn't stop her getting up away from the bridge to go and see how Crichton is.
Yes, well, Crichton gets injured.
Good.
He gets a dent in his brain. Worryingly, the positronic brains look exactly like human brains, but square.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem right somehow.
They look more like a sponge or a shower or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Tweaky is troubled by the idea they're going to have to get Crichton a replacement brain as he won't be the same. like that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
We get, finally, an explanation of Crichton's parentage. Apparently Goodfellow helped Tweaky make his son. The Sidonians get bored, overcome the lock through their mental powers. Buck goes back to bed but finds Private Zed there. Yeah, the generals are now shooting asteroids. In order to do that, they've turned off the defense shield so they crash into an asteroid. So that's 2 asteroid collisions a few episodes apart. Running out of ideas already, are we? Wilma finds out the Sidonians are hatched by a queen, and that's the point at which they start examining her bumps. The searcher is heading straight for a son. Buck arrives to rescue Wilma and rounds the Sidonians up. Apparently, Crichton has the repair function they need to stave off destruction, and Tweaky suggests putting his brain in his son's noggin. There's a load of quoting of Asimov's law of robotics at this point, which was, like, cool at the time.
Yeah.
The Sidonians off to fix Crichton's brain with Goodfellow's help, and sure enough, the brain re-inflates. Wow. And they also help...
Think about the brain.
Don't. And they also help with Tweaky's reactivation. And then we get a scene with one of them, General Umack, harassing another female crew member, which is nice. Hawk finally turns up at the end of the episode. He'd seen the script, so he was out of there, basically. Dr. Goodfellow makes a really weird speech about the magic of believing or something. And applauds the idiots that got them into the trouble in the first place. Apparently they'll be made knights when they get home, and Goodfellow makes this non-pun about them getting a new ship so they won't be sent out on their previous dog. Oh, it just didn't work. It's just rubbish.
Yes.
It's like a very unfunny episode of Galloping Galaxies, which is really going some, because Galloping Galaxies was absolute rubbish. It was a children's program in the 1980s that was just thrown together. And yeah, I only watched it because it had a spaceship in it. To be honest, I only watched this because it had a spaceship in it. Yeah. I mean, it literally is just treating the show like a kids' program that no one will care about, so they don't put any effort in.
No, it's not, but it's worse than that, because it's got
80s sexism.
Yeah, and putting women's lib in with the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And just horrific.
It is grim, yes. A stinking pile of
and
manure.
the only one who's not a general is black.
Yeah, this completely indefensible.
And also at one point as well, Wilma says, well, don't you have wives at home?
So don't.
Well, what
to have the children, yeah. Oh dear. Not good.
One of the worst things I've ever watched in my life ever.
It's certainly not good, no.
No, terrible. Absolutely fucking awful.
So let's be surprised when somebody turns out to like it, maybe. I don't think that's very likely, but there we go.
No. And Jeff writes, well, that was terrible. Yep. It had the potential to be silly fun, but was instead obnoxious and gross.
Yeah.
The writer somehow thought a joke conflating women's lib with the war and the Holocaust was funny. The treatment of Wilma was dreadful. Worst of all, she just seemed to put up with it.
Yeah, actually, even more troubling, there's a book I've been reading, somebody compiled about Borg Rogers. It's basically an episode guide, but by the time you get to season 2, they've kind of given up. They're only doing a page for every episode. But they did a lot of interviews with Erin Gray, and she said she really enjoyed this episode. Really? Really? Okay.
And Jeff continues, were we really supposed to believe that suddenly everyone actually loves Crichton now? It would help if he hadn't started the episode being even more unbearable than usual. At least we kind of got an explanation for Tweaky calling him son. Tweaky was the only bright point of the episode, risking his own existence to save the ship. Funny that all the robots in Buck Rogers are suddenly subject to Asimov's 3 laws of robotics.
I think that was mentioned at the beginning of the season because Asimov is the Admiral's name as well. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a theme for this season. It wasn't mentioned before, though.
And Jeff ends with, my bar for enjoying season 2 is pretty low. I actually enjoyed the satyr. Being deliberately offensive like this episode saps any potential enjoyment quickly.
Yields.
Thanks for the great podcast regardless. At least you get to cover a really good show now with Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
What a contrast.
Well, indeed, yes. It is a bit different, isn't it?
Just a tad.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Sampo and Yona have this to say about the episode.
Hello.
Hello.
So we're finally back in your comfort zone, and after that stupid Star Trek. I mean, this is quality.
No.
I mean, this was much better. I mean, so we just watched Shgoratchx or whatever it was.
Yeah, the one where Wilma gets molested by short childlike creatures and Buck wants to go to bed.
But we all learned an important lesson. I mean, if you just want something, you just have to believe enough and you can get it. And everyone laughed then. There was a dog joke.
I'm refusing to speak about this episode.
Okay.
Yeah, I hated it. I truly hated it.
Yeah, it was pretty awkward to look at. I mean, I suppose they were trying to make a comedy episode, but it was just like...
How can you make comedy out of that? For fuck's sake.
I mean, most comedies in the 60s were like that. I mean,
I guess they were. I'm so happy that times have changed. Stupid world.
Okay, well, see you next time. Bye-bye. Well, okay, maybe something. This episode teased us with the possibility of getting rid of Crichton, and now, of course, if we didn't...
I love the fact that even showmakers hate it.
Yes, but I mean, if we didn't hate the visitors enough already, then they bought Crichton back, so I mean, that's... Well, not quite as bad as harassing Wilma and seemingly all the other women, but almost as bad.
Okay, so they do have electricity then.
Oh, good point. One episode in season 1 said that they don't have electricity anymore, but they had electricity in this episode, so there. I think that's the single biggest problem in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't supposed to agree with that. It clearly wasn't the biggest problem in this episode. Oh, okay. Something I thought of. This would have been the perfect episode to bring back Tweaky's old voice. I mean, there would have been a plot reason for it. I mean, restore to factory defaults or something. But that would have meant that we'd have to listen to the old voice for a few more episodes. So
maybe this episode was in a wrong place, in a wrong time,
There was never the correct time for this episode, I think.
Yes. Why do robot brains look like human brains, then why aren't they like circuits?
I have no idea. Next question.
Okay, are those little men like are they like birds or like lizards? Because they come out of eggs.
Speaking of birds, I mean, what's Hawk doing in this series anymore? I mean, he shows up in the beginning of episodes, goes to patrol, and then comes back at the end of the episode and say, haha, what did I miss? Ha ha ha, like some light molestation. Ho ho.
Yeah, he's like this foreign guy that he has to be there because diversity.
Yeah. Bit of a mistake bringing this lot up to the bridge and...
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they acting like children because they are short?
I don't know. And the only sort of private was black. I mean, was that supposed to be a joke or was this just bad sort of...
They put the one and only black to the electricity wall and he buzzed.
Well, yeah. Well, because he was the only one who they could order around. But I mean, because he was the private and the other were generals. Wilma was the only sensible person who just locked the annoying people away. I mean, it wasn't her. She couldn't know that they could magic the door open, but I mean...
Yeah, she couldn't know that they could magic her clothes open.
Yeah, okay, back to that, because that was just so horrible.
I can't let that go.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. It was just horrible. One more question. I mean, Buck had been up for over 40 hours and only had 2 hours of sleep, and then they found a derelict ship. I mean, don't they have anyone else on board who could go and look at it? No, we have to wake up Buck. So
yeah.
And okay, and the people go missing from the bridge. I mean, they have to call Buck, and whenever something goes wrong, they call Buck from the bridge. I mean, don't they? I mean, I guess they're just totally useless, all of them. Well, this was terrible, objectively terrible. So I guess we can just leave it there.
I'm refusing to say anything more.
Well, you said plenty. Oh no, next we have to watch Star Trek. That's much worse, I guess.
And you don't let that go.
No, I don't. Okay.
I'm assuming that they can have their clothes on.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, just to fill you in case you've not been listening to our other broadcast, Yonas has now been introduced to Star Trek via Strange New Worlds, which is proving an interesting place to start from, I think it's fair to say. But yes, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for her. Yeah, we were teased with Crichton potentially being dropped from the series, but no, they had to bring him back.
I wondered whether what they were saying about this would explain Tweaky coming back. Have they ended up airing these in the wrong order?
Because Tweaky was talking with his Mel Blanc voice at the beginning of the episode before the brain swap. It would have made sense after the brain swap.
Yeah.
If this episode then had been earlier in the series run. But yeah.
It brought back the biddy.
Well, Biddy Biddy was in the previous episode as well, so...
I don't remember him saying
Yeah, he did. Oh, yeah. But he's not saying it as often as he used to.
No.
It's about one an episode, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
And a good point about the electricity not being a thing, and now is, but continuity in this series, I mean, come on. It's not very likely, is it, that they're going to be giving us that?
And, it could be that the only reason they're written to be acting like children is because they're short. So that could be an extra layer of offence, just to add to more offence.
I mean, if you were being generous, you might say, oh, well, this is... I mean, the problem is that this is clearly written for kids. So the idea is that they, kids get amused by adults looking like and acting like children. That's the only thing I can think. But, yeah, what does that say about people's approach to small actors? It's not good, is it, really? No. In fact, in some ways, it may have been funny if it were tall actors acting like children, but a bit like Golden Boy when sorry, I brought that one up, but it was better than this.
Yeah, but that's not really saying anything, is it?
No, this was poop.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
What did Drew and Tracy make of this? I mean, Tracy will have fucking hated it. It's a question, really, of whether Drew thought it was anything other than dross.
So we just watched Shgoratchx.
That's how we're pronouncing it.
That's how I'm saying it, and that's it's probably wrong, but that's how we're going. And what do you think of that one then?
It was pretty awful. It's the worst episode of Buck Rogers, full stop, so far.
The premise was good, in that,
was...
Well, they find a ship and it's got radiation poison and stuff like that, and they bring them aboard, but it was just... Whoever wrote this episode needs a good hard slap in the face for just the un-PC-ness of this
We get on to that. I think it's a combination of two things. Number one, the story's rubbish. It's like, what's the story? We find these aliens and they just cause havoc and they just keep making stuff go wrong and then they've got to sort it out. It's just rubbish, no story.
But it was... My point about it being quite interesting is that there's more happening in this episode than there's been in flipping Buck Rogers episodes for quite a while now.
The other thing is, though, they're just terrible actors. They're obviously not employed because of their diminutive status, and they're just awful actors. They're just terrible.
Yeah. The references in here where Buck says, blah 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 Snow White, and you think, Buck, and then what they're doing to Wilma to try and find out that she's a female is just, isn't it? I was like to you need to turn this off now, because I just can't watch this. And also I don't understand why Wilma as a commander is kind of in that situation. I would have just fucking karate chopped them all across the head and done something, but she's standing there holding her buttons together. Why is she not calling for help? It's just
because it's
wrong.
tea time TV.
Well, I don't care, but
80s, isn't it?
The writers just need to have a fucking word with themselves on this one.
It's done for comedy, isn't it? Back in the day, it's that's funny. Sexual assault is funny. Ha ha ha. Looking on it in 2022 eyes, it's just plain awful.
So radiation leak.
Yes, the bombs
on the
solar bombs.
Sidonian's ship.
Yes.
Why are they not affected by? Oh, because they're grounded now. I get it. Yeah. But why they would be affected surely by?
No,
radiation.
They're kind of meant to be like aliens, and they're not affected by anything.
Also, as soon as Crichton opens the doors to the chamber where all the leaking radiation pods are, fucking close it.
He's a close. If the bombs go off, it's not going to worry you if the doors are open or closed.
Exactly, but for goodness sake, surely the fumes, you could see the pus coming out of it. Just close it.
Yeah, so this pretty awful. I'm struggling to think of any other episode that's as bad as this. This is the worst we've seen.
This episode just annoyed me
Yeah.
beyond belief. I was just like, at one point I started talking to you.
I
and
could
you
see
said,
steam coming at your ears.
yeah, you said to me, "Oh, you're not watching this," and I was like, "I can't watch it anymore. It's just really pissing me off."
Yeah.
And even like Dr. fucking Goodfellow was back in this, and all like the brain.
At least he had his cardigan off for a little while.
Oh yeah, but it just. Oh, I can't deal with it.
I think we should just end it there. I just say plain awful.
Yeah, alright.
Not looking forward to next week, although it can't be as bad as this, surely.
You reckon? Anyway, shall we leave it there?
Okay.
Alright, take it easy, guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. An interesting point about the pacing being better. Everything else has gone to pot, but it's a fast-paced episode. Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, in terms of the basic premise being good, I wonder if this was somebody else's original pitch. There's a derelict ship.
It was probably one of the producers said, "I'll write a script about a derelict ship that's got these, you know."
Yeah, because that could have been something interesting.
It could have been.
It wasn't. It was
It
gobshite.
was nowhere near.
No, but it could have been. But it. Oh god, yeah.
And yeah, that's somebody else who's tracking down William Keyes to murder him if he's not already dead. I've checked both on IMDb and on Wikipedia, and there is no record of whether he's alive or dead. I think he possibly, if he's alive, he's dropped off the grid on purpose. Oh dear. Anyway, we'll finish with Perry and what he made of this tripe.
Hello, orcs. Perry here to talk about yeah, cowards that they were. The people who made the episode used like that word once. I think it's what all the guys were shouting when Buck and Hawk came on their ship. But beyond that, that's never used again. Almost like it's a nonsense word that's phrased that's rubbish. So this episode, in normal circumstances, again, the basic plot is they encounter a ship with a hold of leaky bombs on it, and it's crewed by a kind of group of eccentric generals and one private, who then go around and cause humorous chaos and hijinks on the ship. All the generals are played by, I believe it's people with dwarfism's the correct term, but don't quote me on that, and I do apologise if I've used the wrong one offensively, but I was actually surprised that wasn't played for laughs more. We only had, thankfully, one Snow White joke from Buck. Everything else was, and it's meant to be a knockabout comedy episode. Again, they have for some reason put Peril in there with the ship full of bombs, and apparently these guys can, when they group together and think they can do things, and you do have like some weird subplots, like Crichton's got brain damage. Everyone's hated Crichton up until this point. He's been nothing but pain, but apparently now that he's hurt, Tweaky's absolutely beside himself, and they're talking like he's dead. Which, yeah, I don't know, it's just suddenly, really it's because apparently, for all that none of us really know or care what Crichton can do, he'd have been vital to solve many of the problems. So it had to take him out of commission and give us, I suppose, some drama. But the real gist is you've got these people running around, apparently eating the ship supply of wagon wheels, and causing hijinks and japes with their special abilities. And that would normally be, the comedy kind of, comedy does change over time, and it's a bit broad, and to be honest, the episode didn't really know where it was going, if it was trying to be comedic or having drama at times, but it was generally aiming at the comedic side, with everyone kind of, oh god, and annoyed. And I mean, I do think that the looks on Erin Gray's face with some of the times when she's abandoned with them was more that this part used to be good, and now this is what I'm left with. I felt for her. But the comedy kind of all goes a bit sour when Wilma Deering is locked into a room by effectively a group of men, and then they start forcibly stripping her against her will, and that's played in funny Benny Hill laughs. Ha 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 ha, they're trying to see her naked. Yeah, that's a sexual assault there. Sexual assault, played for laughs. I know mores have changed and whatnot, but the whole point is that does kind of make all these guys look kind of creepy, and not in a good way. Yeah, I was watching that just go, it's kind of going, oh god, no, and then it was that, no, this is actually quite a horrible scene actually when you look at it. It's nasty and not, there's it's being played for laughs, but it really isn't. Like I say, this is a woman trapped in a room with a bunch of guys who are surrounding her and forcibly stripping her. Like, that's just, it's not funny to begin with, and it was never okay. And that does make me actually really quite dislike the episode. If it wasn't for that scene, the episode would have been a bit tedious, and oh god, no, they're doing a comedy episode. But with that, it kind of does, frankly, sour the whole thing quite a bit. To be honest, I was actually going to say, and in fact still hold with, Hawk basically joins Buck to go out to get the ship, and then naffs off on patrol. Clearly, he read ahead in the script and thought, I want to be associated with this as little as possible. And so for the duration of what is apparently a crisis, Hawk has buggered off, and frankly, I think he made the right decision. So yeah, it would have normally been a tedious comedy episode, but it's made really quite horrific by that scene. Really quite got to me. I thought, no, that's amazing how wars change and whatnot. Maybe no, that should never have been a good idea, and the people who wrote that should be bloody ashamed of themselves. So, and also, still, they did not ever use that word that was the title, and that's annoying. But still, we're at the tail end of this now, I think, and we've got Strange New Worlds now, which is cheering me right back up, so thanks for doing that. But all of Rangers says, do keep up the good work. You're all having to watch these episodes as well, of which I'm sorry about, and I'll feed back in the next ones, but until then, bye for now.
Bye!
Bye!
Yeah, it's only Hawk comes out of this with any sort of credit, and that's because he ducked out at most of the episode. Very sensible.
Yeah. Do you think the next one's going to be better?
Well, okay, I have a bit of a confession about the next one. Yeah, so on Thursday the 15th of September, we'll be looking at the Hand of the Goral, which so impacted on me as when I watched it as a teenager that I actually wrote a spin-off sequel to the story.
Have you still got it? Can we read it?
No, I do not. It would have been shamefully burnt at some point. I really, really dread to think what that was. Can't remember now. I can't remember the episode either, but apparently it had a good impact on me, enough to actually spur me into doing some writing. Wow. Please don't be as bad as this week's episode, because it's going to make me look really, really bad.
It is, isn't it?
Or literally the only thing I do remember beyond writing the story is that it ends with a Goodfellow pun. But then every story ends with a Goodfellow pun, so that means nothing. Oh, Vienna. But it has got to be better this week's, surely. Thank you for everybody who's put up with watching the crap that was this week's episode. Yes, Perry's right. I mean, they do mention the episode title possibly twice, but there's no reason for it to be that. It's the least of the episode's problems, wasn't it?
Yes.
Right. We'll catch you next time for hopefully slightly better Borg Rogers. It's not aim too high here, because it's not going to be amazing, but
no, can we just have it so that it's not downright offensive?
And it doesn't put me to shame for wanting to write a sequel story. Hopefully. Catch you then. Bye.
The voiceover for Borg Rogers was provided by Michael David Sims from Earth2.net.
The Borg Rogers theme was played by Drew Barker. All other music is used for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
The artwork for this podcast was created by Andy Pelastides.
To contact us, send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Contact us via Twitter at rev_org or Borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Visit our website at galactica.libsyn.com.
Or view images relating to our cast on our Tumblr site, borgcast.tumblr.com.
You can join our Facebook page. And there's also a Spotify playlist with all our play-out tunes on it.
Shut it down!
Knob? Knob? I have no knob.